You've seen the pickets, you've heard about the buyouts and the cutting of the wrestling program. But what is really happening at Cleveland State?
We cannot maintain those costs. It is unsustainable.
News 5's Clay Lepar takes a closer look at what's going on with public colleges here in Northeast Ohio and what is likely to happen very soon.
Outside Cleveland State, library webmaster Donna Stewart and other staff picket for a new contract. Stewart has worked at CSU on and off since 1981 and saw the shift from colleges that grew by building, acquiring, and expanding to today, where many small and mid-sized colleges are struggling to survive.
We're having to compete with each other in a way that we haven't before for students.
At Cleveland State, enrollment has dropped from 16,000 in 2019 to an estimated 13,000 this year, as students explore options outside of college, focus on the major players, and then there's this.
There aren't as many college-age people these days as there were.
That's true. In fact, there's a term thrown around higher education, demographic cliff. The U.S. birth rate began falling in 2007 and hasn't stopped, meaning those newborns in 2007 are now heading off to college, and there's fewer of them, and it's not going to rebound anytime soon.
Had we been paying attention, or when we've been paying attention, we could have seen some of this coming for years.
Cleveland State President Dr. Laura Bloomberg took over in 2022. Since then, she's worked to steer the school's finances towards the next generation. That meant layoffs, buyouts, and program cuts. Those, she says, are hopefully in the past.
One, I do not foresee any major reductions. I don't foresee layoffs. I will not say that it's easy or smooth sailing going forward. I won't say that. But I will say, I think we're on a very strong path.
But that shift is far from over when you look at all of Ohio's public colleges. Across Ohio's public universities and community colleges, enrollment is down. In total, about 58,000, or 11% over the past 10 years.
But there's no question that we have a much larger footprint than we can justify.
And State Senator Jerry Serino, who serves as vice chair for the Senate Higher Education Committee, says shrinking the physical size of the state's public colleges needs to happen sooner rather than later. How hard is it to close a higher education public institution in Ohio?
Oh, it's extremely difficult because there's public financing involved. And of course, our number one priority is what do we do with the students?
And the first place to look at closing, he says, are the regional or satellite campuses at state schools.
So we're going to have to look at consolidation. That is going to be very difficult, very challenging, because of the impact on various communities where, let's say, some of these branches that we can no longer justify where they're located, they are sometimes the biggest employer in these local communities.
In some ways, we overbuilt our environments on university campuses when what we needed was to perhaps think about what the future of technology was going to do to how we think about the future of education.
Do you see any changes when it comes to the buildings on this campus, whether that is, selling off buildings or demolishing buildings? I know you talked about it last year.
I do. I can't say specifically, and it's not because I'm withholding anything, it's just we're still in the midst of doing our analysis. But we do know we have unused and perhaps unneeded capacity.
Right-sizing today's campuses for today's students so colleges can be around well into the future.
We are serving our students well, and we're going to be serving them better in the future, and that we're here to stay.
At Cleveland State, the president did tell News 5 they support any proposal coming out of Columbus for funds from the state that could pay for demolishing old college buildings that are beyond repair and no longer make sense to maintain. And Rob, just to keep in mind, last week, Cleveland State sent out a request asking developers for ideas about what should be done to the Wolstein Center, specifically ideas to repurpose that building or build something new on the land instead. Something to keep an eye on.
It sure is. Nice reporting, fantastic reporting. There's so many spokes inside that reporting wheel there. We can spend an hour on each one. Let's stick with Cleveland State. Cleveland State has been such a part of so many families in Northeast Ohio, including mine, for years.
Absolutely so. And it sounds, like they made a point to say, listen, the hard part we think is over, and we're here to stay going forward.
My goodness. Okay, there's a little bit more, Clay. Thank you so much. As for the other public colleges struggling in Ohio, just last year, Eastern Gateway Community College in Steubenville closed its doors. Central State University near Dayton was placed under fiscal watch by the state.
And we have confirmed that the University of Akron is selling historic Quaker Square pending approval. The former Quaker Oats facility was turned into a hotel and then dorms, but is no longer used for student housing. The university says the sale is a chance to reduce its physical footprint, as well as maintenance and utility costs.